What do you feel the next steps are for Trevor?
Just to continue to master what we're doing. I think the last few weeks he's continued to progress. We turned the ball over on the last play, but he's been protecting the ball, but just continue to master our offense, and we'll be able to continue to move along with it.
We're a couple of days removed from that game, but can you just talk about that situation while James Robinson wasn't on the field in the game?
Well, he was not on the field. Basically the bottom line is we have to execute what's called, right? We didn't do a good enough job of executing the play. I don't think it's going to matter who's in there. I have a lot of respect for Carlos and his ability to run. He was down in the red zone on the series before. He was in there after James had like a 58-yard run, I think it was, and then put Carlos in there to give him a breather. But I trust both those backs, and I think both of them have the ability to get the ball in. I got to get us into a better situation. I think that's really the bottom line, and be able to take care of it more that way.
Where do you see James Robinson at? Do you see him more as a dude, getting him more in the passing game? Where do you see him if you look at the long-term scope? Do you see bigger role, lesser role? What do you see his value increasing, as the same, or what?
Well, I like what we're doing with him. I think he's a very strong running back in terms of of reading and hitting the holes, putting the ball up on the feet of the lineman, making his cuts. I think he's done an outstanding job with that, and we'll just kind of continue to move in that direction. I think the progression for us, we've stayed in better situations, so his carry numbers have kind of gone up over time. We've talked about this. The first few games we got behind the sticks, we got behind the score, and it changes the complexion of the game. But when you're in the game, you can see how we like to use them, and I love giving him the ball as much as we can. When he gets tired, I love giving the ball to Carlos as much as we can.
Laviska Shenault, first NFL game lining up on the outside. Last week it sounded like you guys wanted to get him a few more touches than you were able to get him. How do you get a more consistent impact from him? Was it almost a learning experience for him playing that first game on the outside, or?
Well, I think one of the learning experiences for him was just the load. How many extra plays that he was playing. Not having the time coming off the field. So I think that affected him a little bit. But I got to do a better job at getting him involved. There's no question. And it is different when he's on the outside. And I've had games where you go into the game, you say, hey, this guy's going to get this, this many, and he ends up like that. It ends up where the defense or the reads or the coverage, dictates it. But there's no question, we've talked about it. We want to get the ball in his hands. He got one play, makes an amazing play. So got to continue to find ways to get him the ball.
Can you just talk about having a wide receiver, his size, his skill set, and trying to get him the ball like that play where you get him down the field against defensive backs and he's just throwing guys like a running back.
Yeah, I go back, what was it, the play in Dallas, where we caught the ball and he turns it up and he's dragging guys all the way down and almost scored with it. So he has great ability. He is a really physical presence, probably one of the more physical receivers in the league. He's got great size, he's got great strength. He has a really good knack for when he has the ball in his hands, that run after the catch stuff. So again, we got to find ways to keep him involved.
Do you ever think about how you can get him one-on-one with a defensive back down the field?
Oh yeah, we're trying to get all of it, and I think there's the line there, in terms of how to get him the football. Some of them are, do you use them? I don't know if it's the right words, but like a running back style, just get the ball out there like we have, and then find the ways to find him down the field as well is still important to make it happen.
Coach, and let's assume that Josh can get back to form, or that Matthew becomes reliable. As an offensive coordinator, when you've got a kicker who's pretty reliable, 50 yards in, and you're pretty certain of his accuracy, and you get to a certain point on the field, and you've got 3 points in your pocket, does that help you in your play calling? Can you be more aggressive? Does it open things up if you're reasonably certain you got 3 points?
Yeah, it is a big factor. I think it has to do with, even with your psyche. As you go down and get points and you finish drives with 3 points. I think that would have been, we fumbled on the first drive, then we went down, had a great answer, scored on the second drive, had a decent drive the next one, and then the next two we had scoring drives again. So we're going to score 3 of the first 5 times we have the ball. But one of them, we don't make the field goal. I think there's kind of a little bit of a mental lull there. So we got to react better to that, and then to kind of go with your question, it does change it a little bit. What I'm trying to do is I get a line where the distance is from the kicker, like, okay, or, from the coaches, like, hey, we got to make it to this line. I'm always trying to get it as far inside that line as I possibly can to make it, even a more sure field goal if we need it.
I don't think you've ever coached in London?
I have not.
Okay, so what's that mean for you? Is you excited? Does it change anything for you? And going to a new stadium, I think haven't you been to all stadiums in the league?
I believe I have, yeah. I haven't been to this one, though.
No. So do you have any concerns going in there? Like what's it, sight lines and stuff like that from upstairs?
No, not. I wouldn't say really concerns. I mean, I'm very interested. I mean, I'm excited to go to this game, and you still have the flight and all that stuff. I'm interested to see how how we manage it. I love how we've handled the week up to this point, and, with the installations and getting the game plan in, and have a couple days when we get there. So I'm just excited to see how it works out.
Will you allow yourself to go do a little sightseeing or coaches?
Yeah, since it's a Friday, it would be like our normal Friday at home. Maybe end up doing something.
Who do you hang with? Who's your hanging partner on the team?
It's just some of the coach staff, like Will Harriger, ball game we call him, is one of my guys. Coach Shoddy is one of my guys. Really the whole offensive staff. So probably one of those guys.
What do you do on that flight? Do you sleep, or you just go through the plan, or what?
Well, I think on this one, I want to make sure that we have everything prepared for tomorrow. So once that's all prepared, then we're basically going overnight. So I think it's the best to get some rest.
You've gotten some more impact from your tight ends the past couple of weeks. How does that help to open up the offense as a whole?
Well, anytime you have guys making plays at different spots, it presents a different issues for the defense. So when you have a guy inside that can make plays as a tight end, they have to say, okay, how are we going to cover him? And then if you want to double that guy, then it opens up other guys. Or we're doubling this guy, then it opens up the inside guy. So I think for a defense, it just makes it harder on them to how they want to handle it. If you have Marvin going, you have LaVisca going, you have Dan going, I think it just makes it harder for them to decide how they want to handle us.
All right, I got to ask, have you guys worked the QB sneak yet, or is that something?
Well, I wouldn't say we haven't worked it. Okay, I'm kind of glad you asked, but because just from my perspective. Okay, so first of all, Trevor Lawrence is capable of doing anything that we ask, right? But the second thing is, I think this goes back to our conversation early, right, from all these college quarterbacks coming into the NFL. Okay, because I think it's like, hey, it's a quarterback sneak. What's the big deal, right? But there's a lot of nuances to a quarterback sneak, and then obviously the first and foremost one is even getting the snap. So have never put the guy in a live situation. Okay, like it's even different if it's a 3rd and 1 in the field as opposed to a 4th and 1, or 4th and inches on the goal line. Now the center's in a 4-point stance. That snap's going to come up different. So for me, I was not comfortable putting him in that situation without having enough reps built up. My job each and every week as we go out here, we put a game plan in, we practice the game plan. There's times during the week it's like, you know what, that play is not game ready. I can't put that in this game. And so we'll continue to practice it maybe for the next week, and so there's always a point where I have to decide, is a play game ready? And I didn't feel like that play was game ready. So we'll continue to work on that.
How tough is it for a quarterback to handle that snap? I mean, he's a guy who's done most of his snaps in shotgun.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to imagine for a quarterback sneak, you got to get it, handle it really quickly.
Right.
How tough is that for a young guy to get down?
I just think it's something that's taken for granted, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I played the position, I've been down there in a 4th and 1, and I took snaps my whole life. I started under center, right? And knowing on the goal line, the ball comes up different. I mean, the guys are, they're nose to nose on the goal line, and the collision's a little bit different. The center's in a 4-point stance. That's a little bit different. And so all that stuff, it messes with the ball, and then you have to possess the ball, and get that first before you can do anything else. So, I'm not trying to make too big of a deal of it, but I do want, it is taken for granted a little bit, like, oh yeah, it's just a quarterback sneak, just get the ball and go. And, it's something I think that really needs to be worked.
Is it really hard to make it game ready when the quarterback's wearing a red jersey?
It is hard.
Players aren't going to hit him.
It is hard. It is harder. So, that's when you got to be creative and try to work through a few things in practice to be able to get that done.
You guys have Drew Brees when he was here show Trevor the little jump over.
Yeah, I mean that's another part of it too, right? So there's all those all the little nuances. I mean, watch Tom Brady, right? One of the greatest of all times at running a quarterback sneak. So just continue to work it.
What have you seen from Miami's defense here?
Yeah, I mean they present different issues with how they use their personnel. They have many different personnel packages. Obviously, they have good cover guys and corners on the edges. So, it'll be interesting. They're a game plan specific defense. So they'll have a specific plan for us. You watch the games; they don't play everybody the same way. So there'll be some in-game adjustments that we need to make during the game.
Have you been happy with the way your receivers have handled seeing man coverage?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good there. There's different I don't know, identifications and ways that you need to be able to see and maybe get some pre-snap reads that help you out as well. Defenses are getting pretty good at trying to hide some of those nowadays. But I think we're doing okay there.
How do you feel about the line without two starters? I mean, what do you think about the guy that's going to replace him?
Yeah, well, last week Ben did a good job in there at guard. For AJ. I mean, we really missed AJ, but I thought Ben did a good job. There was a couple. There's always going to be, but there was a couple plays that he could have been better. But overall, for him to step in there and start in the game, I thought he did a good job. And we're very fortunate to have a guy like Shatley. I mean, Brandon Linder's our leader. You can't really replace a guy like that, but we're very fortunate to have a guy that has experience at snapping the ball, experience at making all the calls that you need to, because that guy's really directing it, and particularly with a younger quarterback. So we're excited that we have Shatley, that we can, work with him.
Who snaps the Shatley piece?
Casey probably will be the guy.
How much control does Trevor have at the line?
He has full trump card to do whatever he needs to do.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks,
All right,
Coach.
yep.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate everyone being here a little earlier. Getting ready for a big trip overseas. Face a really good Dolphins team that we're expecting Tua to come back, but whoever lines up there will be ready to go. But just to recap last week quickly on the game, I mean, until that, Henry obviously as good a back as you're going to get in the league, and I thought our guys did a great job, executing the plan, how we wanted to stop him, how we wanted to tackle him. You look back over the years, whenever we needed a play, it seemed like he always had that crack flip, that crack toss on the edge. But at the half, he had 2.8. Our guys we were gang tackling him, and until that last 4 minute, he had 91 yards, 3.1 a carry, and then didn't end well. Big plays continue to hurt us, and it's not only a big play in terms of when you look at the, you could say we got shredded back there in the secondary. They had 180 yards throwing, 180. They were averaging 400 in terms of total offense, but it's just big plays at the most opportune time, and it's coverage, no one near them, and it's been 4 of those. So we've got to clean that up, and you can say all you want. It's communication. It's guys knowing who they have, guys taking their guys, and usually the last 3 that happen like that, if we had our guy, it probably would have been a sack. But we just got to finish better, and we're going to do that this week over in London. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
When you guys are struggling in coverage in the secondary and even some of the front 7 guys, how much more difficult does it make for you when you're trying to dial up different blitzes and things like that? Because you need to give them a little bit more help in coverage.
Well, I think in terms of like whether it's a zone, whether it's a man coverage, I mean, rush and coverage got to work together. And I thought, when you look at last week's game, our rush really came alive. And when you look at the pressure we had on Tannehill, we had 3 sacks, we had 8 quarterback hits. The coverage was outstanding. So the rush and coverage, he wasn't able to throw the ball. We had tight coverage, allowed our rush to get there. We just got to do that more on a consistent basis.
Joe, what's it feel like to have Logan Cook on your side, the field position opportunities that he gives you?
No, obviously, when we pin those guys back deep and him shoot, it's great, and we just got to make sure we keep him there.
What kind of, compared to some punters you've been around in the NFL, is
well, I was in
Where was
Baltimore.
your rate,
We had a great punter, and he did the same thing. So having an opportunity to, when you pin him deep or boom it and change the field, it's great.
What do you feel is the biggest issue with you're getting a lot of underneath passes thrown against you between the linebackers and the safeties?
Well, when you look at when you look at third down, okay, when you look at like 3rd and 3 to 4, first of all, a guy's not going to cover for that long. So when you're running 11's running a crossing route, he's eventually going to get open, and it's just mesh routes and pick routes when you're in man are a tough deal. I mean, it's just one of those things. You got to fight through it. We got to get off the field, but it's age-old thing. I mean, you look around the league.
So you don't think it's a problem where the linebackers are dropping back in the end zone, and then your safeties is in man?
No, not at all.
Issues like that?
If we're in man, we're all in man. If we're in zone, we're all in zone. We got to get to our landmarks, break better, break on the ball better, get your hands up. We did bat 2 balls. We're going to get some of those now. Batted balls, we're going to get some. But, on the bright spot, some of the guys like Caleb on Chasen had probably his best game, at least since I've been here. And we expect him to that's the standard now. And he knows, he left his guy in one of the mans, and he knows it. He manned up to it. And but he had a heck of a game, and setting the edge and getting after the quarterback, hustling the ball. So we're just going to take the positives from that and move forward.
Defense is a lot about confidence and going out and kind of imposing your will. You've talked a little bit about this, but this is a team that's searching for that confidence in the locker room. Players have talked about it since the beginning of the season, of veteran players, talking about young players needing to find their confidence in this league. How, as a defensive coordinator, does that make your job more difficult? Do you have to really instill that confidence to take the field to your guys?
Well, I think when you look at it, I told the guys this, the physicality part from last week, outstanding. Outstanding. The line of scrimmage, knocking people back, all that, and you just got to be more consistent. And a young guy, obviously, he's not young anymore. For a young guy, he has to go out and play. We expect him to play at a high level.
The green dot, you moved it last week. Wilson and Jenkins have it now?
Yeah, so when you look at that, we've done that everywhere I've been. So, we had C.J. Mosley, the last place I was at, so we had to give it to a safety. We gave it to Eric Weddle. It went smooth for 2 games. We said, why don't you just keep it? And here, Miles had it for 2 years, no issues. You'd like to have a guy have it that's on the field every down. And that was the deal there. But I felt like, and we felt like, I wanted to take it off of Miles' plate, and we gave it to Damien. So we gave it to Damien, and then there's certain times you might signal, and then we always have a safety with it, Rayshawn.
How much better does that make? Because Urban talked about doing research and taking the green dot away from Miles has made his play better, or you've seen that it's been better over the years without it. How much better does it make Miles' game when he doesn't have to focus in on that as much?
Well, I think like anybody, whoever has the green dot, you're echoing anyhow, just like he did. So when Miles made the call to the defense, Damien was closing the front and doing that, and Miles was doing the same thing last week. You still have to communicate. And like I said, he had it 2 full years. Last year they took it away from him because they had Joe.
You feel, with your situation with Miles Jack, do you think that Shaq Quarterman can step in, or you preparing him to play?
Well, everyone, like I said, everyone that steps on the field is a starter, and Shaq's done some good things. He filled in great in that second half and was physical. You talk about physical, knocking linemen back and making tackles in the backfield. He did a great job.
Shaquille's played pretty good for you so far this season. The only thing you could say is that he's dropped a couple of picks. Have you made him get out on the jug machine on the field? I know he kind of joked he needed to sleep with the football to figure out what he did wrong.
Well, I'll tell you, he had a great break. And that's a position on the crossing route where you're not in the great position if you're a man, but he's in our trail technique, tailpipe we call it, and then he broke on the ball. Now, that's a game changer. He knows it, we know it, and he's going to get it this week. And he's done it before. You got to catch it. And then there was 20 yards to go. That's a touchdown, changes the game.
Did he owe you guys some push-ups or something after dropping that one?
He definitely did those, but he's going to get that, and we're going to get that. Those tips, those balls right there that are in your arm. Caleb on, I've argued, and you can't ever go, but that right there is a half an inch from being a sack fumble. We get the ball in the 50, changes the game.
So what do you do facing Tua coming back off of a 3-week absence like that? How does that affect anything?
Well, obviously he's a left-handed quarterback, so now most of those rollouts and the sprint outs, we've been doing this all year, but most of them are going to go to that side. He's an athletic quarterback. He's got a really strong arm, and it'll be a challenge.
And then what do you see from them? They've got a lot of weapons. They haven't been completely dynamic, but they've got them.
They do. Their tight end is big. He's 6'6", and he's like a wide receiver, so he can stretch the field. And just a matchup issue there, just jump ball and all that. They got really 3 good running backs. They get some weapons. Their wide receiver core is really good. So
going to London, do you like that trip, and sort of what difficulties does it make you as a game planner?
Well, I hope this trip's a lot better than the last one, so you guys know that. So it wasn't good in the last one. We were over there. I think both of us were 3-0, but It wasn't good. It was 44-7, if I recall. This one will be a lot better.
Tyson Campbell supposed to be back this week. How?
Yeah, we'll see. He's working through it and he's practicing, so we'll see where it goes. But we expect that.
Thanks, Coach.
Good. Thank you, guys.
We forgot to cover Mercedes Lewis that year.